Okay, I think we are live. This is actually the very first time I have properly gone live. Now, I did go live one time, but that was just to tell everybody that I was canceling Instagram, which did not last long, as it never does, but that's okay. So, welcome everyone. Today's live stream, which I am very excited about, is for one specific purpose, and it's something that I've been asked about over and over again, pretty much since I became an editor. Um, Once I started editing, people were like, I'm really glad that you're doing this service. However, I'm working on my next book. It's not going to be done for a while. So, question, can you or someone else look at it while I'm working on it? And the answer was always no. Hi, Glenna. I'm so glad you're here. Glenna is awesome. One of my clients, a supernatural author. Of course, those are close to my heart. Hi, Tethys and Kathy. Awesome. So glad you are here. All of these ladies are very talented and write really great books, varying genres. So I do have some very talented clients. And I am hoping that with a critique group, I'm able to kind of cultivate other people's talent, because obviously writing a book can take a long time. Sometimes people are quick about it, sometimes they're not. But regardless of how quickly you write, uh, at some point you're going to need feedback. At some point you're going to say, well, I think it's good, but is it actually? And sometimes you can go and pay someone like me. But a lot of the times I've actually turned authors away because they'll send me their manuscript and I'll be like, all right, let's do a free sample. Let's look. And it's just not, it's not ready for prime time. It's not ready for an editor. What they need is they need a critique group. They need to go through and kind of shore up some of the, entry level mistakes. They need to kind of fix some plot issues. And that will ultimately, in the long run, save them money. It will save them time. It's just a better way to write when you get feedback along the way. And so I've had people ask me, hey, do you know of any critique groups? And of course, most of my clients don't live in my local area. They live in other parts of the US, and sometimes they even live in other countries. Unhelpful. So even if I did know one, what I had to say wouldn't help. So I just thought I would create one myself. So, Ink Crafters Critique. This is a critique group, not a writer's group. If you can hear my dog, I apologize. She has a little leg boo-boo, so she can't flip herself over. So she whines when she wants to flip. So Ink Crafters Critique is designed as a critique group. This is something that it's different than writers groups. I had made a previous video about writers groups where it's kind of like where you talk about craft in general, in the abstract. You talk about publishing. You talk about kind of a lot of different things, show support for one another. Um, it's just kind of a positive place to hang out. A critique group, on the other hand, is more targeted. And of course, it has the requirement that you have to have written something. And, if you've been a part of any writers group, you know that there are people who are writers and they love to talk about writing and they love to take notes and do world building, but they've never actually sat down and written a scene, because that's hard. That is really hard, even when you're just getting started and you're so excited about it. So critique groups mandate that you have to have written something in order to get started. And so that's what we've done. There's a lot of reasons that people, even if they have written a whole bunch, they never get involved in critique groups, even if they want. And we're going to talk about some of those barriers and how Ink Crafters hopefully, dispels them. We live in a new world now, and hopefully this community will adapt to what people are looking for to provide feedback for their own work. And then they can also flex their writer's muscles by reading other people's work and providing feedback to them, helping them. And yes, by the way, I do participate. So you will get to actually provide feedback on my writing as well. All right. So as I was saying, I get literally dozens of requests for critique groups all the time. Usually people think about, I either want something in person because they feel like they won't do it if they don't have to physically drive there. And if you don't live in my area, obviously I can't help you. And then there's a concern for some people where they think that people of other genres, so if they're a mystery writer, they genuinely are concerned that, well, I can only join a critique group for other mystery writers because what? You think other people don't know what mystery is? So the thing about inter-genre critiquing. In my experience, it makes you better because even if you don't write mystery yourself, you understand how a mystery works. You've seen a mystery on TV, you've seen it on movies, you've probably read some of them yourself, even if you've chosen not to write them. So you know how to critique them. As an editor, part of what's made me really good at what I am after 15 years is because I've edited so many different genres. I've edited genres that I wouldn't necessarily pick up as a reader, and I definitely wouldn't write. Romance is a big one of them, and those are selling like hotcakes. And I'm thinking maybe I want to try my hand, but it's never really resonated with me. But having read the work of very skilled romance writers and giving them feedback on it, it's made me a better writer. So it's very helpful to read works. Now, the problem is, and this is for everybody, finding a critique group that works. They do exist. They exist online. They exist in person. I know Critique Match is a very popular site where basically you're just paired up with somebody and you guys exchange it. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. The people I've personally known, it hasn't really worked out well for them. For one, it's only one person's feedback, and they don't necessarily agree with that person. My own experiences with critique groups. So my first book took me 7 years to write. It took me 7 years to write because I didn't have any help with it. I didn't show it to people except for my family. Yes, I know now you never you never show your novel to your mother because what does she say? "Oh, it's so good, dear." Of course it is, mom. It's okay. They want to be helpful. They want to support you. But they don't really have anything helpful to say. So 7 years of writing whenever I felt like it, scrapping it and rewriting it and not really knowing if it was good. It's like, is this good? Is it too long? I don't know what to do with this. And then there was the anxiety. It's like, well, maybe I don't want to finish it. Maybe no one should ever see this book. But I did. Eventually I put it out there and, it was generally well received, if not great selling, because, you do actually have to market your books, which I didn't. But here's the thing. The second book in the series was 2 years, which is still a long time by today's standards, but it was consistent writing. It was consistent writing because every single Monday I went to the Monday Night Writers, barring weather, of course. And me and between 7 and 10 other writers sat in a coffee shop or Panera Bread later on, and we exchanged 1,500 words at a time. It was a variety of genres. They all had different backgrounds. They all had different things to contribute to this group. And that trimmed my writing time down. It made my actual writing sharper. My first drafts became better, more coherent. There was less instances of anybody going, I'm really not sure what's going on in this scene. By the end of the second book, that almost never happened. I had drilled my talent down based on the feedback that I got from these other authors to the point where I was able to quickly and clearly write out a scene. Now, it still needed work because it was a rough draft, but the increase in my talent was amazing. And I loved that group so much. And, life changes. I was a part of the group for 10 years total. I had moved away for 3 of it, and they still kept looking at it virtually. Some of the members. But then, it petered out. People stopped coming. They moved away. They just stopped writing, some of them. And that was a real loss. I was very sad to lose that group. But there's always a new group to join. So I figured I would just start one on my own. However, I didn't even look for an in-person group in my local area, which is Kansas City, Kansas, because even though I work at home, I don't want to leave my house ever. I never want to leave my house. I am an arch introvert, and I know that a lot of other writers are as well. But even the ones who are extroverts and they love to socialize and they get antsy if they get stuck in the house all the time, they also have family. They also have jobs that do not allow them to stay at home like mine does. And they ask themselves, okay, I really want to join this critique group. I really want to sit with these writers and talk about my writing and hear their feedback and ask them questions. But do I really want to get off work, pick up my kid from daycare, drop him home with my partner or, my mother, or even if I'm lucky enough to have anyone to watch my kid, and then drive across town? Probably not. And a lot of times when you have those, in-person meetups. They're at a restaurant, they're at a coffee shop, and maybe that's not in line with your budget, or maybe that's not in line with your weight loss goals or whatever. There's a lot of barriers to an in-person meetup, at least for me, and other people have expressed those as well, particularly when they still have children at home. So that wasn't really something I even looked into. I don't want to drive across town to a meeting. What I want is to log onto my computer, read people's work, have them read mine, and then just have a place where we can answer questions and kind of brainstorm and spitball and get better together. That was the goal behind this group. Another thing that I thought about, and this was actually pretty important to me, was asynchronous. In my job, my day job, I work with people across the country, and one person is in Hawaii. And so a lot of the things that we do are designed to be asynchronous. So instead of having a meetup where we'll all be like, okay, we're going to meet at 9 o'clock in the morning Central Time, because most of us are in Kansas. And so our time stream matters. We don't do that. Instead, I or my supervisor, we will record something and then we'll put it up on Teams. That works really well with people spread across time zones. It allows us flexibility in our schedule. The West Coast people, everything like that. It's just very, very helpful. Oh, hi, Nikki. I will post up a link at the end where you can join in our free part to look around, or you can join our premium sections. So I'll be putting that up for you. So it'll just be easy to click. If I can figure out how to use this, I'm using StreamYard. And if you guys haven't heard that, it's kind of a YouTube add-on and it helps you live stream. And I've never used it before, you can probably tell. So I'll see if I can figure that out. So the asynchronous nature of it means that you could post your 2,000 words and then, don't get upset if nobody answers right away. But then the next day, someone will be like, oh, I really liked it. And here's what I thought you could work on. And then a few hours later, something will trickle in. So basically you are able to do it when you have time. And that goes for posting and for replying. So if you're stuck at the doctor's office with your sick kid, if you're sitting in the car because your son has hockey practice and they don't let parents watch or whatever, that's fine. Instead of scrolling on Facebook, guess what? You can scroll on the critique group. Or if you're a person who can actually compose on your cell phone, I'm not one of them, but some people can. You can just write your segment right there on your phone. I did design it to be mobile first. I use Circle, which is a really fantastic community site. That's the bones of what we built the community on. And this is designed so that where you can do this entirely mobile if you want to. I'm always at my desktop. And it looks great on desktop, but some people are just phone only. They don't want to hear nothing about a desktop, and that's okay because you don't have to. Everywhere you go, this can go with you, and that goes for the posts on the page as well as people's actual writing. And speaking of writing, in order to fulfill our goals of mobile first, we do use Google Docs exclusively. So when you submit your writing for critique, we don't upload Word documents. We don't upload pages or anything that's platform specific. What we do instead is we drop a link to Google Docs. And just so you know, I do have a tutorial that is on the community if you're not familiar with it. But it is a very low learning curve. And that's another great thing about it, is that it's actually very user-friendly. And that way you can read, you can comment, you can do everything on your phone if you should have the desire, or you can do it on your desktop, which is always my preference. And if you are ready to take a look, I will take you right over there. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Yay. There. All righty. So this is what the first page will look like. This is the page of the link that I'm going to drop. So in Crafter's Critique, and on the community introduction, basically what we have is just what is our community about? And then of course the link here. Resources and tutorials. Of course, we want to have the community rules first. Every place has its rules, and mine are pretty basic. Ultimately, number 9 is the one you want to look at. Don't speak to anybody in a way that you wouldn't want to be spoken to, and don't speak to anyone over the internet the way you wouldn't in person. A big one is also never, never, never share anyone's work. I'm a big fan of Joey Swoll. And what he does is he reposts kind of disrespectful TikToks of people at the gym where they're just filming a stranger and being like, oh, look at this goofball. He doesn't know how to do a deadlift or whatever. And he kind of chastises them. He's like, look, people are afraid to go to the gym. Don't do that. And so, kind of, our rule here is the work that we're posting is not ready for prime time. And that's the purpose of the critique group. The work that we are posting is in its rough draft form, which means we don't want anyone to see it. So do not ever post anyone's work, even if there's no name attached to it, anything like that. That's an absolute no. There will not be forgiveness for that. But everything else is just normal. Use appropriate language. Be honest but tactful. We want to be helpful. So we don't want to say, oh, I didn't like it. I really don't like this genre. Okay, and you are not obliged to like every genre, but we want to say something that's helpful, like, I found the meet cute to be unrealistic and a little bit cringe. That's good feedback. It's negative feedback, but it's still helpful. Why did you find it cringe? If you have a suggestion for what would be better, that would be great. But you don't always have to, just so you know. It's not like, well, if you point out a problem, you have to have a solution. That's silliness. No. If something doesn't hit right with you, it's perfectly fine to vocalize that. If you have a suggestion on how to fix it, feel free to share. But if not, also fine. And then we want to stay on topic. We also want to make sure that there's several little spaces here. So I have the writing discussions and questions here. But if you just like have this whole discussion in the actual critique session, I'll be like, hey, can you move it over to the chat so the thread doesn't get too long? We don't want to get out of crazy. And finally, no politics ever for any reason. Ever. We want to make sure that everybody enjoys coming here. We want to make sure that everybody feels welcome here. And so we don't want to exclude anybody. We don't want to, say, oh, well, this is, X, Y, or Z. We are about writing here. We are about excellence here. And we are about honing our craft as authors here. And so that is the focus of the community. I also have a section for author service providers, and I would love for members to give me, if you have an artist that you work with that you love, if you have a proofreader or a formatter that you love, I would love to hype them here. I might also consider putting links to craft books here. I haven't thought about that. Maybe it's something I'm considering, things that are just helpful to writers. I would kind of like to do that here. Right now, obviously, I have my services for when your book is done. If you want to grow your email list, this is the service that I do. I use It's Story Origin. It's kind of similar to BookFunnel, but this is the one that I use. 20 Books to 50K is a free Facebook group. And Juan Padron is one of the cover artists that I work with. And he's fantastic and he's fast. And, I feel really great hyping him. When you join, and you will be able to see all of this down here. If you join for free, this is what you'll be restricted to. So, we do have several free members right now who are just kind of interested in seeing what it's about. But once you get down here, this is for the premium members. So introduce yourself, tell everybody what you write, what you are looking to get out of the group, and your socials. We want to follow you. We want to hype you. We want to make sure that, when you drop a link to your book on Instagram, we're right there to like your post. So we want to make sure that we have that sense of community here where we're sharing each other's works, where we're hyping each other. And that's why we have the promote your work. A lot of groups are like, hey man, don't spam. And I concur with that. Do not spam, don't drop 17 links to your book. But let us know. If you have a book for sale, let us know. This is Tethys' book. It's a young adult fantasy. It is awesome. I had the honor of editing it. It's wonderful. I really enjoyed it. This is my book. And when your book comes out, let us know, especially for that opening week, so we can help you with your numbers. Recommendations. This is just a chat. So basically, if there's a show you really like, I'm enjoying Shadow and Bone right now. The second series just premiered. I had to finish the first one and then I watched the second one. I really enjoyed it. So, it's based on the books. I haven't read them, but they are on the list, the long, long TBR list, which is growing neglected. And I'll just skip down with the writing discussion questions. Basically just asking, anything to do with the craft. It's good to talk to other people. And here's the star of the show. I have fiction and nonfiction. Now, the reason I separate these is because kind of you look for different things. Right now, our nonfiction members are both memoirists. However, all different types of nonfiction writers are welcome. So if you are if you're writing a nonfiction book about entrepreneurship or business in general, or if you're doing something that's kind of topic specific about, making your tech skills work in another industry or whatever, that's kind of different feedback. It has a different structure. It has different requirements than fiction. So I thought it would be best to kind of separate these out. Just so as we grow as a group, people who are really interested in one more than the other, they can kind of haunt where they live. I do have instructions on how to submit critiques. Not everybody is, as familiar with sites, and I don't want to have any barriers for tech-related issues. So for instance, I, just very basic, tap the new post, and that way, you come down here. The instructions about Google Docs. Here's the site. You log in with your Google account. And this is how you set up permissions. So we can comment on your work, but we can't fully edit it without you seeing what we did. And that way you can keep control of your work, but also allow us to make comments in there. So Teth has posted the first chapter of her work, and a couple of us commented on it, what we thought about it in general. And we also made comments and suggestions to her actual work. And here's a scene that I posted as well. It's the first scene that takes place in 1688 London. And I dropped my Google Docs link, and I got some really helpful commentary on it. I enjoyed it very much. And then it's the same rules for nonfiction. It's just for nonfiction. So Kathy has posted 2 chapters. We don't have posting limits right now. As we grow, we might. But a good rule of thumb is don't post more than once a day. Just to give people a chance to make sure that they have time to read your work and provide thoughtful comments. We definitely don't want anyone to rush. And then there's also, we want to make sure that one person isn't dominating, posting versus commenting. So we always want to make sure we're not posting and ghosting. If you're posting your writing, make sure you're providing feedback to others as well, so we can all learn from each other and make our writing better. And then our writing discussion. So down here, you'll see some links. This is where you can get your app for your respective phone. And then also, if you are currently a member of the free community, this is where you come to pay and get access to all of the spaces. So let me drop a link down here. Stop sharing. Okay. I'm going to put this in the chat. And that's open. Anybody can go there. And I will tell everybody. And Tethys, you'll feel better. It was not just you who encountered this. If you have a free account in the community, and then you're like, hey, I'm ready, I can't wait to upgrade, and you go in there and you try to upgrade, it's going to ask you to log in. And then it's going to ask you to log in again. And from the way it looks like it brings you to a whole different site. And that throws people off. So that's what happened there. It will ask you to log in twice. Don't be alarmed. So basically, that is Inkcrafters Critique community. It is designed for all genres. It is designed for all levels of writing. So if you are working on your first book, you are every bit as welcome here. And I hope you will find every bit as much edification as someone who is, in the middle of their author journey, someone who's already got a book under their belt or something. I would hope that it would be helpful to people at all levels. Probably not advanced writers. They probably have their own little street team who does that. But for those of us without our own street team, a critique group has proved invaluable to me. I got really great comments on my post, and I try to be thoughtful with other people's posts as well. So with that in mind, does anybody have any questions they want to drop into the chat? Does anyone nervous or anything about a critique group? I would love to hear questions if anybody had them. And I know that there is a delay, but that's okay. And so for everybody who's watching on the replay, I just posted the address to the community that will bring you to the community introduction. You can join. I will also drop it down in the description to make for an easy, clickable experience. Glenna, we would love to have you. Technically, it wasn't open. I kind of slow rolled it out to people who signed up via my email list saying specifically, I just want to know about this critique group. I don't necessarily want the rest of your stuff. I specifically want to hear about critique group. So it was kind of slow rolled out. It hadn't released yet. We were just kind of getting started. But yes, I would love to have everybody from and I'm live streaming on Facebook as well for YouTube people. So if you're in my Facebook page and you're like, okay, when are you going to give me something helpful? I hope that this fits the bill. Membership costs, it depends. If you sign up for annually, then it's $10 a month. If you are billed from month to month, then it's $15 per month. Obviously, I do want to keep costs low. As authors who write fiction, guess what? If we make money off of our books, if we hit the black, if we get all of our goals, it's not going to be until the book is done. That is the thing about writing fiction. So I wanted to make sure I kept prices low. So for the low price of $10 per month or $15 per month, you can get the experience of a 15-year editor reviewing your work in small chunks. We do have a 2,000 word per post limit. And this is basically just to be respectful of people's time and also to ensure that their feedback is helpful. So if they're just going to be sitting there and scrolling, they might get, tired and their feedback might not be as helpful as they get further down. So 2,000 words I found is a really good limit. It keeps everybody's attention span. They can make helpful comments. And then they'll be ready for the next one that you post, whether it's tomorrow or next week. Myself, I will be posting writing once a week, probably. That's my goal. I'm a slow writer in general. And then, with all of my editing work, I will not be a frequent poster, but I will be a frequent reviewer. So everything that you post, I will be reviewing. And thus far, the people who have joined it, they have been fantastic. Like Tethys is my little rock star. Her commentary is so detailed and helpful. Kathy is another one, and she's just doing great. And then Allison, my little Spitfire, you are such a joy. Just wonderful to have in the group. So I am looking forward to more people joining. I hope you guys can't hear my dog. She is throwing such a tantrum. So yes, and if you have any questions, you can always leave a comment on these videos on either Facebook or YouTube. Let's see. Kathy, yes. Kathy is one of my editing clients, and it was such a joy to work for you as well. And I know, I can't remember, I think you're working on your next book, but you probably already have it done because you are a fantastic rock star and you just pump those books out. So yes, everybody that ever worked with me as an editing client, if you're working on your next one, I would love for you to join the critique element. And then if not, if we've never worked together before and this is your first experience with me, then I feel like this would be a good introduction to me. And the critique is of course less detailed than a full edit, but I think it's very helpful, especially as you write, and it tends to give you ideas, speaking to other writers. So that is my presentation. If you have any questions, drop them down on the video on the site that you're watching this on. And by all means, I would love it if you joined our community. And yeah, let's write some books together. So with that, take care and write well.